When is the end of times? This entire subject is called the study of eschatology, which is the study of how humankind will come to an end, how Judgment Day will begin, and the manner of the world as we know it, how that will come to an end. And every religion has spoken about this. In fact, ancient mythologies too have shed light on this, and there's oral traditions that have passed down to us. But of course, the greatest teaching is the Holy Quran. That's what Muslims believe. And every system of religion has, however, predicted the end of times in great detail. We know the end of times, in other words, to be the latter days. Now, all of this is really interesting because there's a common thread running through all systems of belief about the end of times, about the latter days. But of course, as I said, for us Muslims, the most important teaching is the Holy Quran. And what does the Holy Quran say about the end of times, about the latter days? We find a verse in the Holy Quran, in Surah Al-Araf, where it is stated, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ السَّاعَةِ أَيَّانَ مُرْسَاهَا قُلْ إِنَّمَا عِلْمُهَا عِنْدَ رَبِّي, which translates to that, O Prophet, they ask you about the hour, they ask you about the end of times as to when it will be, and Allah the Almighty commands the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to say that the knowledge of it rests only with Allah the Almighty. So we don't actually know exactly the moment, but we have been told about its signs, about its hallmarks. So what are some of these signs? And other than the verses of the Holy Quran, there are numerous ahadith from which we can ascertain and from which we can infer the period of that time. The greatest sign, perhaps the greatest sign, we certainly believe this as Ahmadi Muslims, is the sign of the appearance of the Imam Mahdi. In fact, not just the majority of all religions, not just the Abrahamic faiths, but the majority of all religions are awaiting a reformer. Even the Hindu faith is waiting for the return of Hazrat Krishna alayhi salam. So the reappearance of a prophet is a very widely held belief specific to the end of times. And it is believed that when this reformer will appear, he will appear at the end of the hour when the forces of evil will be at their height, and he shall fight these forces of evil. That's another sign from which we can actually infer when this end hour is. And the evil that has been personified, we believe in Islam, it to be known as the Dajjal. We take this from a hadith of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that the Dajjal would appear as a sign of the final hour of the end of times and would appear riding on the back of a donkey which would eat fire. Now, in the Ahmadiyya interpretation of this, we believe this to be a metaphor for Western technologies of travel and communication. Now, in another place, it is mentioned that the Dajjal will tell the people to believe in him. And those who will be showered with an abundance of food, and those who do not will be burned. Again, we interpret this to mean, the system of wars and the system of humanitarian aid being used in the modern times to control foreign countries. All of this has been mentioned in our religion, in the religion of Islam, and in previous religions as well. In fact, there's a hadith in which the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that every prophet warned his people of the Dajjal, who was to appear in the latter days. The promised Messiah ﷺ, the founder of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, has detailed, and it would not be an exaggeration to say that he's detailed hundreds of signs in his several dozen books about the end of times. One of them is that in the latter days, camels as a means of transport will be discarded, and there will be a complete revolution in the means of transports. And we see this with our own eyes. So there's a lot of signs that have been fulfilled in relation to the latter days. And we do believe that the Messiah of the latter days has appeared. His name was Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad alayhi salam. And all of the signs that were going to accompany him to hearken the latter days have also appeared. But there's a misconception, and that is that as soon as this Messiah or this Mahdi will appear, then it will literally be the last day and it will literally be the last hour. People can construe this to mean that he will literally appear as Judgment Day is breaking. Now, this is not true because there are so many signs that are to be fulfilled when he appears. For example, the final victory between good and evil, and we believe that good shall prevail. So we believe that there are many signs that have been fulfilled in relation to the appearance of the Mahdi, in relation to the appearance of the latter days. And there are many signs that are being fulfilled, and there are many signs that will be fulfilled in the future. And it's about knowing these, it's about learning about them, and it's most importantly about opening the Holy Quran, reading it intently to see and recognize the greatest of these signs, which we believe to be the appearance of the Imam Mahdi.